Hello everyone, Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Naughty Step channel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the EPs that got me into EDM. Now this channel is all about community, establishing similarity in our music taste, saying what we like and dislike within the niche of electronic music. And in another video celebrating hitting 5k on the channel, what better way to do so than by running through all the EPs that got me into this kind of music. Yes people, all of these EPs I'm about to talk about changed my life in some way, each one convincing me every time a little bit more that EDM was the thing I was going to shape my life around. Bear in mind I'm talking only about EPs here and not albums as well. At least 3 original songs and stopping at 8 or 9 depending on the length of the project in question. And I'm also not talking about EPs from which I only love a couple of tunes. Nah, these collections I love pretty much from start to finish. They all had a very serious impact on me. And we're talking about my formative years of listening to electronic music here, from 2010 up to and including 2014. This was the period in my life when the discovery of new electronic music was very fresh for me. From 2015 I started exploring it in a much more professional and organised way. Quite a lot to get through here, gonna talk a little about each, how they impacted me, what I remember of hearing them for the first time. Some of these musicians have multiple EPs that played a big part in shaping my love for EDM, but I'm only doing one each and going with the first of theirs I heard that changed me. Bear in mind I run a bass music channel, so a lot of heavy stuff here, but some that may surprise you as well, no particular order. Let's go. And first up, the one that kicked it all off. The first time that I feel all my emotions played out in extremely off-the-wall music, and that's Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites by Skrillex. The first heavy electronic originals I heard after Skrillex's own remix of Hey Sexy Lady. The song I would say that definitely set me on the path of loving demonic, robot noise-laden bangers. Such a range on this EP though, my word. I found the songs one at a time to my memory and then listened as a collection and very much fell in love straight away. All these originals are fantastic. I think it would be quite hard to deny that. It just had everything that I was looking for, you know. It was as if a key to my happiness had suddenly been unlocked. And that was such a weird feeling, being 15 or 16 or so, and having your life very much turned around by music, but that is what happened. I was never big on the remixes here, apart from maybe the Bare Noise one, and I think I prefer Bangarang as a project because of that, but it's still completely game-changing for bass generally, and my life. Next up we have Dillon Francis with Something Something Awesome. This is just so full of life and joy. Dillon Francis in his purest form, in my opinion. So musically on point, but so gnarly as well. Prime, summery, teenage sort of feels, I would have to say. This was very much me realising dark electronic music could be pretty at the same time, when you take into account what's layered on top of what lays below. A real glow and cheerfulness to it, but with a real fuzz and bite underneath as well. The perfect mix for him, I think, and I'm not sure his production has ever sounded this raw and organic again. So much fun, amazing range of sounds on show, so well put together and full of nostalgia for yours truly. One of the first EPs I loved. After that we have Knife Party with 100% no modern talking. Coming off the back of absolutely loving Pendulum's Immersion album and wondering what they would do next, suddenly Knife Party come along and I was listening to a load of their remixes and wondering, who the hell are these guys? They are absolutely incredible. Me realising pretty much how thrilling and inventive dark electronic music could be. And when I connected the dots and listened to original music of theirs, this EP, Songs at a Time and then in full, I was completely blown away. Seizure music they called it, which was so accurate, but I absolutely loved it. So devilish, high octane, anthemic, varied, musically on point. I think you'll be hard pressed to find another EP that is so complete. Then we have Feed Me's Escape from Electric Mountain by, of course, Feed Me. Another that I think really captures my youth. This was when I started going out, and it perfectly encapsulates the rebellious 16, 17-year-old teenager in me. Remember playing a couple of these songs in the car in the morning on the way to school to my friend, who who I was trying to impress, and he loved it. And that's when I was like, okay, now I know it's sick. It just has everything, you know, savage stuff, heartfelt stuff, high tempo, slow tempo, so much character, and each song really owns the space it's in, and some truly iconic songs in his discography on this collection. Honestly, one of the most underrated projects in modern bass music in my opinion. Ridiculously good. Following on from there, we have Jack Beats with Careless. I think the first where I really marvelled at the sounds and how fresh everything was that I was listening to. Definitely very unlike anything I'd heard up until that point. Loads and loads of catchy stuff here, really well put together, great vocals that ensure every song has its own kind of story, and some knockout drops in terms of the idea, the execution. It covers an array of styles, great features, really futuristic and cartoonish. It's just such a good listen, and very unique, I think, compared to everything else on this list. Another that's really fun, but more quirky, I would say, than the happy stuff we get on the Dillon Francis one, for example, but with a dark undertone, even though it is so cutesy, even though a lot of you, I don't think, will have heard it, a full recommend. Then I'm going to talk about Far Too Loud with Firestorm, another EP where I loved every track pretty much straight away, and I think one of the first times I saw dark electronic music in a really epic, filmic, wide-reaching, grand way. I was very much on a robot noise kick at that point, and having a hefty dose of that here at that time was just another confirmation that this music was for me. With mostly faster tempos as well, something I hadn't heard loads of up to that point, even though the closer, 600 Years, one of my favourite tunes ever, was a little bit slower and a bit more 100 BPM in terms of dubstep. But yeah, front to back, this one is brilliant and something I feel we need more of today. Next up, we have Diplo with Express Yourself, quite possibly the EP I've enjoyed most over time in terms of outright fun and happiness. Something Awesome runs it close, but this one being longer at 6 tracks just about edges it for me. Such a weird collection for a lot of it, but I think that's what I love about it. I remember originally hearing it with my best mate and just instantly loving the freakish, circus-like delivery of it. Just constantly flips your understanding of what's normal on its head, and really does, I think, push boundaries in terms of bringing sounds together that really just shouldn't work. With incredible rhythms, vocals, collaborations, stylistically varied, musically great. The only reason I think it didn't define an era is because it was so unique. The best I've heard Diplo, no question at all. After that, we have Spitfire by Porter Robinson. Some would call this an album, I think, because it's 11 tracks and 1 hour long, but on an originals level, I think it's an EP. You wouldn't call it a Porter Robinson album now, would you? Because it just isn't that. I think this project was one of the first that really got me thinking. The time-stopping introductions, the political vocal samples, the chaotic, dystopian drops. But also, of course, you've got all of the fun electro and house in there as well. A real rollercoaster experience, and again, I think one that perfectly captured youthful, rebellious Connor. The remixes are pretty much all fantastic as well. The Knife Party one in particular is up there with my favourites ever. And yeah, this collection, it just offers so much. Lapped it up from the very beginning and still do today. Now, everyone has those projects that get them through tough times, and for me, it was Seven Lions with Days to Come. And this EP was definitely that and more for me, you know. Really did definitely pull me out of some difficult teenage angst, I can't lie. The atmosphere of it, the soundscape delivery, the somber vocals, the euphoric drops, it all just appealed to a part of me that wanted to be beyond reality at points, very otherworldly music. Really gets you in the feels, even the more upbeat stuff. Pretty much all of it is really, really moving, and honestly one of those that I am fully and completely grateful for. It became a friend that I could consult if I was feeling shit, which was more often, I think, than I would have liked. And to think Seven Lions had to sit down and make this thing, and that there would potentially be a big emotional gap in my life without it, I can only thank him, really. Then we have another that just has to be one of the most underrated in modern bass music. From start to finish, this one is consistently incredible in every regard, and that's Kill the Noise with Kill Kill Kill. Every song is so well put together, sonically outstanding, and is extremely memorable in some way or another, remixes included. And it's good to know he didn't fall off the radar after this EP, but this is still for me definitely his best collection, one that told a story unlike few others I'd heard up to that point. Some of the best yoys in history as well right here. So much range and fires on all cylinders from start to finish. Absolutely top draw. Following on from there, we have Stabs by X-Core. I'd heard his stuff before in various songs and enjoyed it a lot, and when I got a hold of this EP, oh my word, I was in a stage of being completely obsessed with dubstep, and I was far from disappointed, I'll tell you that much. Weird thing about this one, I remember being in Norway when I heard it for the first time, funnily enough, travelling with family, and constantly beaming just because I loved this EP so much. I had it on repeat, and it also just showed me how heavy slow tempo EDM can also be quite sorrowful and melancholic, with the closer Empty Space, which really got me in the feels for years on end and still does. A beautiful, beautiful song. Just so colossal, this EP, mighty, large. I loved the percussion in combination with everything on top, and it was exactly what I wanted in that time of my life. Then we have the first that might surprise people perhaps, Metropolis Part 1 by The M Machine. One of the first mostly non-heavy EDM EPs I just couldn't get enough of. One that I think gave me this weird grown-up feeling. As weird as that may sound, I felt like I was assuming adulthood in some sort of way when I was listening to it. Not that I was aware of it, but I think this collection really matured me at that time. Still heavy moments here, of course, not denying that, but generally more chilled, melodic, easygoing, delicate, and it had some pretty direct links to a lot of indie music I was listening to just before that. A lot of laid-back instrumentation, welcoming vocals, a real charm to it, basically. And yeah, they did really well at bringing you into their world, locking you in, very atmospheric and vivid, immersing you in it, imagistic, and that again changed my understanding of music completely. Next up, Zomboy, The Dead Symphonic. Honestly, I don't think I can remember being so astounded by something on my first listen of it. The first Zomboy collection I was truly taken aback by. I could not stop listening to it front to back. One of those that I think really does have everything. There's just so much to feast on here. People talk about Reanimated being a game changer, but this one is so much more so for me, completely ahead of its time. This is modern dubstep in its most creative, wild, eccentric form, an EP that just has an aim and throws itself at it, all guns blazing, beginning to end, no questions. A collection that played an important role in me realising how cleverly dubstep could be crafted, so many little moments of class to it, one I loved when I first heard it, and still do today. Then we have Dr. P with Animal Vegetable Mineral Part 1, another one of the most creative and ingenious modern dubstep EPs I've ever heard. It's just pure flavour. That is the highest compliment that I can pay it. You just sit back and wonder how much fun he must have had putting it together. It just flies off in so many directions and is as colourful and exuberant as it gets, really. I mean, one of those where I was left gawping at some of the sounds on show, how they were brought together, just so wild and out there. The grooves are great in every track, the vocals as well are brilliant, and I'm just gutted that we never got a part 2, really, although I'm also happy that it stands alone because it is amazing and its excellence shouldn't be dampened in any way. Then we have potentially a bit of a funny one, and that's Bear Grylls with The High Grade. When this first came out, I was like, oh my god, this guy has come out of nowhere, he has such a funny name, every track is so fire. I was showing all of my friends, I was so happy with myself. Little did I know, it was Dodge and Fusky's little side joke. I still love it though, it's very feel good, all the drop ideas are pretty sick in my opinion. I really liked the copy and paste nature of it. So simple, and the production wasn't great, but everything else I just couldn't get enough of. Every song had something to it. Most of all though, I think fact remains he still managed to pump out this banging EP on top of Disciple kicking off, and you have to rate him for that. You do just have to. Following on from there, we have Torrent This EP by Barely Alive. What I remember most about this EP is being completely unknowing of everything, what torrenting was, how I got the EP even though it was free. I just had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Don't even know how I downloaded it eventually, but I did do it. And also why Twine and Barely Alive were working with Avril Lavigne. I just didn't get it. But yep, I knew nothing. But on a musical level, oh my god. So many incredible drops on this EP. Astounding the amount of good dubstep on show here. It's maddening. And they all work well with the originals as well. I'd heard originals of theirs before, but not connected the dots, if you get me. Listening to Lost in the Internet and Internet Streets sporadically without realising those songs were part of full projects. But this EP right here, devilish, guttural, monstrous brostep, a really good idea to have an EP of remixes, and I can't stress enough how much it excels. Barely Alive sound in full flow, absolutely top-notch collection. After that, Cohen Sound with Funk Blaster, another one of those EPs that completely reset my understanding of not just EDM but music generally. And when I first heard it, I wasn't quite sure what it was doing to me, but I knew that I loved it. Hearing it again in light of what the majority of dubstep-driven music is like today, you really do wonder where most of the flavour has gone and why it isn't much of a thing anymore, this kind of approach. Maybe people think it's already been done the best with this EP, which is probably true, but when it comes to what heavy EDM needs more of today, I think that would be a really good start. And yes, I have heard of Vorso, but the way every single sound is angled against the other, the ones before and after it, whilst being so colourful, jazzy, funky, aggressive, it blew me away originally and it still does today. Now, initially my dubstep experience was huge, roaring, bellowing, transformer-like noises, and I hadn't heard much that was playful, sprightly, electric, and then I heard Eptic, and now I'm going to talk about his Like a Boss EP. This collection was the first I heard of him, and I just found the sheer freakish energy of it incredible. The ideas were produced with such a cleanliness as well that it was difficult to really pull away from. The way every sequence kind of connected together, he just knew exactly what he wanted to do, instantly transporting me to the world he wanted to create with the music. On reflection, I think I prefer the Doom EP, but this was the one that truly set me off with his sound. Pretty incredible that he stayed unique since he started releasing with Never Say Die, a modern dubstep legend. Penultimately, few EPs here on this list where every song is markedly different, yet they're all really, really good. And that's definitely the case here with Graduation by Gemini. Such a powerful collection. The title track is straight up one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. Feel Me is one of those super enduring, authentic numbers that really leaves a mark over its course. House, acid, techno, disco is just a really fantastic, well-paced idea, executed extremely well, and Vision is a very cutting, evil dubstep number that again does pretty much everything right. So musically on point, this whole thing put together in a really organic way, and I don't think I realised on the first couple of years of listening to it how great it was, but I really do now. And last but by certainly no means least, it's Division by Schism. Few EPs here that are stacked with iconic material, but to be honest, what more do you expect from arguably the most important figure in modern dubstep? Easily Schism's most impactful project, this was his grungy, forceful dubstep in full flow, as I mentioned, producing some of the genre's most iconic tracks of all time. Experts is a tune that defined an era with its message. Red Heat is for me insanely good and one of the most underrated when it comes to god tier bass music. And both Killer and Kick It have extremely memorable moments. It's easy to forget considering what he's doing now, but he did make one of the best dubstep EPs of its time, in my opinion. Just before I leave you, gonna give you a couple of extras which I still liked a lot, but didn't have quite as big an impact on me. So we have Pegboard Nerds with Guilty Pleasures, Alex Metric with Ammunition, Zed's Dead and Omar Links with Victor, Jacob Plant with Warehouse, Figure with Monsters of Drumstep Volume 1, Credo with Limitless, Alvin Risk with Infinity, Let's Be Friends with EP1, Sazon Boyar with Impacto, My New Leng with Masterplan, and Keys and Crates with Solo. And so there we have it, the EPs that got me into electronic music, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. But what are the EPs that got you into electronic music? Anything particularly special? Those I've mentioned here, those I haven't mentioned here? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell along the way so you can be notified whenever I upload a new video to the channel. And my social media accounts are linked in the description box down below. For some examples of the other kinds of video I do on the channel, check out the link right next to my head here. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure, as always, to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.